Do not watch this video if you want to increase your bench press. Basically, in today's video, I'm going to be explaining the things that you should not do if you want to grow your bench press. If you are okay with doing the wrong things and not fixing them, then this video probably isn't for you. But if you want to find where you're making your mistakes in the bench press programming specifically, this video is definitely for you. And make sure you watch to the end because I'm going to be breaking down quite a few common mistakes that people make when programming their bench press. So this is the do not do any of these things. I'm gonna keep this up here the whole video so you don't get any ideas, right? So the first thing that I'm gonna talk about, let's say it's your primary bench day. So we're gonna put a PBD, primary bench day, right? Primary bench day on, let's say it's a week 2, because typically I'll do a 4-week block, but let's say we're on a week 2. So we're gonna go W2, primary bench day, week 2. What should you not do on this? I'm going to give you a few examples right here. 3x5 top set. If you're doing a 3x5 top set on your primary bench day, I don't know what your coach has learned from who, or I don't know where you kind of came up with this. A 3x5 is actually good, believe it or not. A 3x5 is good. It's good in the bodybuilding aspect, and it's good even in the powerlifting aspect. But a 3x5 is not good for a top set. Now, I'm a big believer in having a top set when you're doing bench press for primary day, right? Primary. I believe that a primary should have a top set. Now, it could have sets with an S on that, but I will talk about these exceptions shortly. But things that you should avoid on a primary bench day look something like this. 3x5, 4x4, 6x6. What else can I even think of? And we'll go like 5x3. I don't think that any of these right here should be on a primary bench day. The reason for that now, the reason being is that even if you are in peak off season, doing a top set for all these sets right here, the only way that you justify all these sets is by having a low number right here. And all these numbers right here are pretty high except the 3 rep. But notice that on this 3 rep, well, this might be the kind of the exception, right? These are definitely do nots, but this might be the exception, right? Because we have a 5x3. 3 reps is lower reps, but there's a big but to this. Just because it's lower reps doesn't mean that all these sets are going to make you do a number that's just not realistic for you to be progressing with, right? So if I was to do, me personally, if I was to do a 5x3, honestly, I'd probably end up doing something like 415, 425 when I'm benching well over 500 pounds. I could not see myself progressing at all doing anything with 425 for a primary day, right? Now, it would be better if I wanted to do something with 425. I'm going to give you guys a do, exclamation mark. 425, if I wanted to do 425, I'd try to do a 1x8 at, we'll go, that would probably be like a 9.5. If I wanted to do, let's say it was a true week 2 right here, I would do 425 for a 1x6. We'll say it's like at 8. That would probably be more realistic. So this is an 8. This is a 6. I would probably pick this number. But notice when there's a high number over here, we want a low number right here. And I think that this is a very easy basic understanding of programming is that for a primary, right, we have to make sure that this is the primary day, right? When it's a primary day, I think it's very simple to understand that this one of these numbers needs to be low. One of those numbers needs to be low. And low, I would say 3 and under, right? But let's say, okay, well, how come 3 and under doesn't apply in this situation up here? That's because this number is so much higher than it, right? If it's 3, I would say if it has a 3, it needs to look like this. Either 3x3, 3x2, 3x1, right? Or if it starts with a 1 for a primary day, I think a 1 could go anywhere. I think you can have any amount of reps that you want, right? So something like a do. Look, we're going to put do right here. A do would be 1x4. 1 by 5, 1 by 8, 1 by 12, even 1 by 12. Even though this number is so high, even though this 1 by 12 number is so high, it still works because you're still hitting a top set. You do not want to do all of this stuff right here on a primary bench day. You don't want to be doing a 6 by 6. You don't want a 4 by 4. You don't want a 3 by 5. You don't want to be doing all of that stuff on a primary bench day. And just the reason behind that is because at that rate, you're never going to push any real weight. You're always going to be stuck in a pocket. And now some people will ask, okay, so what's the pocket? It's basically not spending all of your energy at one time, one day, whatever else. You're saving a little bit. But if you're saving a little bit, you still want to feel some heavy weight so your body understands what that heavy weight feels like. Now another, do not. If you bench 3 times a week, people ask me this all the time. If you bench 3 times a week, 3x week, your bench press training must look something like this. This is undebatable. You're going to have primary, you're going to have tertiary, and you're going to have secondary. And for me, this is exactly what mine looks like. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Now, when you're doing this, right, you could still make a ton of mistakes just by setting this up. You're going to have a primary, secondary, and tertiary. But what you cannot have is you cannot have this primary, tertiary, primary, and you certainly cannot have primary, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. What do I mean primary, primary? You cannot do 1x1, 1x2, 1x3. Why can't you do 1 by 1, 1 by 2, 1 by 3? We gotta give RPEs here. So I'm gonna go RPE 8, RPE 8.5, RPE 9. Why can't you do this? Why can't you go 1 by 1, 1 by 2, 1 by 3 in the same week? Primary. Why can't you do it? This is literally the math for a disaster of an injury. The math for a disaster of an injury. If you are pressing constantly this heavy, I can guarantee you that an injury is coming. And a lot of people that I know will lift something like this, and when they will say, why do I have such bad shoulder pain? The reason that you have such bad shoulder pain is because, for me, if I was to break this down, a 1 by 1 at 8 would be RPE, probably 463. 1 by 1 at 1 by 2 at 8.5 would probably also be like 455, and then 1 by 3 at 9 would probably be, let's say 455 too. Your body is not meant to handle this load, and this load all in the exact same week. Now, I'm going to give you guys something that you should do, right? So we're going to say should do right here. We're going to erase the primary, and I'm going to give you guys the fix for this. Fix. So we're going to go primary, tertiary, secondary. And a tertiary day does not mean that you need to always go RPE 6. But what a tertiary day means is either it needs to be a different type of movement, right? So I'm going to put DM, different movement, which could be close grip, Larson press, slingshot, whatever. And what I would primarily do on this tertiary day, if I was coaching myself, or I was trying to get past a plateau, I would give myself maybe a 4 by 6 at 7. CG, close grip. I would add a variation onto it. You want to have a small variation sometimes on tertiary days. Sometimes you don't need to have a variation, but sometimes you do. Now, how do you figure out if you need a variation or not? You need to know your body. This is where a coach can come into play too. If you don't know when to give yourself a close grip bench, when to not, when to do whatever, when to change what up, this is when a coach could come into play. If you don't know your body well enough, you haven't been training yourself long enough to understand, would I be better off with a close grip? Would I be better off with a Larson, with a slingshot, whatever? This is where you could come into getting a coach. And quick advertisement for myself, you guys will see my Instagram down below. Went Training Methods, boom. Training Methods. on Instagram, if you hit me and you're interested in coaching, let me know that you came from this video and we could talk. We could talk about what you're struggling with. But back to this equation right here. So starting off with the tertiary, I think this is a very solid tertiary day. You need to understand though, just because it's tertiary day doesn't mean that you get to go at 7. You're like, all right, so for my example, I'd be like, at 7, it's like really, really easy. I'm gonna go like 275. No, you still want to move it at an actual RPE 7. So for me, when I was like, yeah, I could do 275, no, I would probably want to do this at something more like 335, 345, somewhere in there. Secondary day. Now you could either add another variation or you could not add another variation. That is up to you, and that's also up to you, like knowing your body, right? Because you could do a close grip here and you could do a slingshot here. You could do a slingshot here and you could do a heavier close grip here. You know what I'm saying? That's all up to you. But sometimes, for me, me especially, sometimes I just won't do any variation here. I would just say, no, I don't need the variation here. I need the comp bench. And this is something that you need to figure out yourself, because I can't tell you what to do. I could tell you what to recommend, but I can't tell you what to do unless you're working with me and I'm able to see your feedback and judge by stuff like that. But if you coach yourself, that's something that you're going to have to figure out is, what does my body need on what days? But for myself personally, I would not carry over another variation. On something like this secondary day, I would try to work up to a 3x3 PR, something like that, right? And judging by the fact that a 3x3 PR seems to be heavy, for me it probably actually wouldn't be that heavy. For a 3x3 PR, I would assume I'd be somewhere around like 441 ish with a little squiggle, and that would probably end up being at like an RPE 8. So now we're training at 7 and an 8, and then when we come over to my primary day, this is when I let go of the 9. And sometimes when I'm coaching people and I'm breaking stuff down, I will start with this tertiary day, because if you're able to bench 3 times a week, this tertiary day may be the most important day. Keep that in mind. Your tertiary bench day may be the most important day. So sometimes that's why it's okay to work backwards. You start here, you go here, you end here, right? You start 1, 2, 3. Now once I'm at my primary, I look at what do I have for my tertiary and my secondary. All right, so my tertiary, I see that I have 6 reps. My secondary, I have a 3x3. And also, by the way, I would probably do more after this. I would probably program myself something up, maybe a 3x5, 3x8, something else. But I would give myself something else. I would give myself more. This wouldn't be the whole thing that I do for that day. On the primary day, though, I can look. All right, so I've attacked the 6-rep scheme. I've attacked the 3-rep scheme. And let's say I chose this 3x8. I attacked the 8-rep scheme. And so what I'm going to do once I attack this 8-rep scheme is I'm going to say, all right, what do I need help with the most, right? Since I know myself. Most likely, I'm going to need a double or a single on this primary day. And that's where I'll come up with this 1x2 at 9. Boom, 1x2 at 9. Let's say that this is probably more of I'll give this more of like a week 3 feeling, because then I could go for a single the week after. And then from here, I would probably go with judging by the fact I did 8, I did 6, I did 3, I did 2. I'll probably give myself one of the rep schemes that I'm missing, which is 4. So I'd probably go like something with like a 4x4 as a back down. Now, all of this, you need to find out how to judge yourself, right? I can't give you the magic, like the magic key. I could tell you some of the things that I mentioned are the do nots, but this is where having maybe some stronger guys in your gym, reaching out to some people on Instagram if you can't afford coaching, hiring a coach that you can afford, hiring a good coach, I'm not just advertising my point, advertising or hiring a good coach and finding strong people around you that know what they're doing is a must, right? So hopefully you guys can learn something from this video on the do's and do nots. And hopefully you guys, if you are self-coaching, you're able to continue to grow and keep going stronger. If you're in a plateau, you don't know how to get past it, go ahead, hit me on Instagram, Wentz Training Methods. And until next time, Blake Wentz signing out. Peace.